In 1984, a young man walked confidently onto Botafogo's training ground in Rio de Janeiro and introduced himself as the team's new signing, but nobody knew he couldn't even kick a football properly. Now think about this. How does someone fool the world's best football clubs for 20 years and earn millions of dollars without ever playing football? The story of Carlos Henrique Raposo, better known as Carlos Kaiser, is so unbelievable that even Netflix wouldn't dare to write it, but every single word is true and documented. Kaiser's first trick was so simple yet so genius that it seemed impossible to work until he stole Castor de Andrade's phone number. Who was Castor de Andrade? You ask? Well, he was the owner of Bangu FC and one of Rio's most dangerous men, and Kaiser had stolen his private phone number at a party and caught the opportunity of his lifetime. But the real masterstroke hadn't come yet. Kaiser went to Botafogo claiming he played in Mexico and got a friend without management experience to pretend to be a Mexican agent who called the club president speaking Spanish, praising Kaiser. Of course, the president didn't speak Spanish, and the translator was Kaiser's man too. The transfer happened. Kaiser signed the contract. His monthly salary was set, but there was a problem. Training sessions were about to start, and Kaiser didn't know how to play football, and this is where Kaiser's genius truly emerged. Before the first training session, Kaiser injected himself. He shot cortisol directly into his muscle and began writhing in terrible pain. Everyone thought he had suffered a serious injury, and Kaiser received treatment for 3 full months, collected his salary, and never had to play football. During these 3 months, Kaiser didn't sit idle. He befriended the club's star player Bebeto and started acting like Bebeto's cousin. In fact, everyone started calling him Bebeto's cousin, and this gave him incredible protection. Nobody could treat Bebeto's cousin badly. Kaiser's other tactic was women. He had managed to impress Rio's most beautiful models and brought them to training sessions while coaches and teammates paid attention to the beautiful women. Nobody noticed. Kaiser never touched the ball. But his most genius plan emerged during his transfer to Ajaccio. The French club wanted to see him, and Kaiser had a fake training video made. He paid another footballer to wear his jersey and filmed from a distance. The video was so convincing that Ajaccio immediately approved the transfer. When he went to France, Kaiser used the same tactic again, fake injury, but this time he was more creative. He avoided training with a toothache excuse, then said his girlfriend was pregnant and he needed to go to Brazil. Each time a new excuse, a new lie, but somehow they all worked. Kaiser's funniest memory happened at Independiente. The team president wanted to play him in a match, and Kaiser panicked. He didn't know what to do, but right then he saw the president's niece in the stands. She was a beautiful woman, and Kaiser sent her his phone number. The woman told this to the president, and the president went crazy. Instead of playing Kaiser, he kicked him off the team, but Kaiser wanted exactly this. Anyway, he got the contract termination, compensation, and started looking for a new team. In the 1990s, Kaiser transferred to Flamengo, and here he told one of football history's biggest lies. He said he received offers from big European clubs, but stayed because he loved Rio so much, and the media believed it. Newspapers praised his sacrifice, fans loved him, but in reality, there were no offers. Kaiser's phone trick was perhaps his most creative scam during training. His phone would constantly ring, and he'd say, "Oh, Milan is calling again," or "Manchester United keeps insisting, but I'm happy at Flamengo," and everyone believed him because he was so confident that nobody thought he was lying. His relationship with journalists was perfect. He would constantly give them stories, fake transfer offers, made-up achievements, goals he scored in Mexico, all lies, but journalists would write them because Kaiser would buy them drinks, give them party invitations, and journalists liked him. Kaiser's moment of getting caught almost never came until he met Renato Gaucho, who was a real star, and noticed Kaiser's lies, but Kaiser found a solution again. He told Gaucho, "Brother, I'm not a footballer, I just want to live this life," and Gaucho felt sorry for him, even helped him. After 20 years, Kaiser's story came out, but nobody was angry with him. On the contrary, everyone admired him because Kaiser hadn't hurt anyone. He had just used the system's loopholes, and while doing this, he was so charismatic that even the people he fooled respected him. Today, Carlos Kaiser works as a motivational speaker, telling his story, giving people lessons in confidence and charisma. Ironically, the man who never learned to play football is now one of the most recognized names in the football world. What does Kaiser's story actually show us? Sometimes in life, you don't need talent to be successful, you need courage and creativity, and Kaiser had plenty of both. Maybe he didn't know how to play football, but he played the game of life better than everyone. A Netflix documentary was made, his book was written, and Kaiser finally got what he wanted. He became famous, he became rich, and while doing this, he didn't hurt anyone. He just gave everyone what they wanted to believe, the illusion of a star. And this was Kaiser's real success. He showed people what they wanted to see, and managed to maintain this illusion for 20 years now. Tell me, is this a failure, or the world's most creative performance art? But wait, there's something even crazier. Kaiser once dated a famous model who was dating a real footballer at the same time, and when the footballer found out, Kaiser convinced him they should be friends because they had similar taste in women, and it actually worked. They became best friends. This is the level of Kaiser's charisma. The funniest part is that Kaiser's teammates would often defend him to coaches, saying he was too good for small matches, that he should be saved for important games, and Kaiser would nod seriously, agreeing with them as if he was indeed too valuable to waste on regular matches. One time at Puebla in Mexico, Kaiser was actually forced to enter a match as a substitute in the 84th minute, and as soon as he got on the pitch, he saw a rival fan insulting him, so Kaiser walked straight to the fan and punched him, getting immediately red-carded and sent off. The whole incident lasted less than 20 seconds, and Kaiser never touched the ball. His cousin Bebeto connection was so believable that when Brazil won the 1994 World Cup and Bebeto did his famous baby celebration, Kaiser was invited to the official celebration parties and took photos with the World Cup trophy, which he later used to impress more women and club presidents. When Kaiser finally revealed everything in interviews years later, many of his former coaches and teammates refused to believe it. Some still insisted he was a great player who just had bad luck with injuries, which shows how convincing his performance was for 2 whole decades. The documentary about Kaiser includes interviews with famous players like Bebeto, Carlos, Alberto Torres, and Renato Gaucho, and they all laugh while telling their stories about him. Nobody seems angry, they all seem impressed by his audacity and creativity. Kaiser's philosophy was simple. He said, "Why should I run around a field getting hurt when I can live like a king without the pain?" And for 20 years he proved his point, living the footballer's dream without the footballer's work. Today, football clubs use Kaiser's story as a cautionary tale in their recruitment process. Some clubs even have what they call the Kaiser Clause in contracts, requiring players to pass regular fitness tests to prevent another Kaiser situation from happening. The most incredible part is that Kaiser kept detailed records of all his fake injuries. He had a notebook with dates, symptoms, treatment plans, and recovery times for every fake injury he ever claimed, so he would never contradict himself. But here's where the story gets even more insane. Kaiser wasn't alone in this game. There was an entire network of people helping him, and some of them were actually legitimate football agents who saw Kaiser as their golden goose because he would share his earnings with them for keeping his secret. The psychological aspect of Kaiser's con is fascinating. Sports psychologists who studied his case say he had supreme social intelligence. He could read people instantly and knew exactly what they wanted to hear. If a coach was religious, Kaiser would carry a Bible. If a president loved parties, Kaiser would become the party king. Kaiser's morning routine was legendary. He would wake up at 5 a.m., not to train, but to prepare his daily performance. He would practice limping in front of mirrors, rehearse pain expressions, and study medical journals to learn authentic injury terminology. The money Kaiser made was astronomical. Various estimates suggest he earned over $2 million during his career in 1980s and 1990s, money which would be worth nearly $6 million today, and he spent it all on maintaining his image, because for Kaiser the image was everything. One of Kaiser's closest calls came at Gazelec Ajaccio, when the coach suspected something was wrong and demanded Kaiser train with the youth team, but Kaiser had a solution. He hired local amateur players to injure him during practice, so he would have a legitimate reason to stop playing. Women were Kaiser's greatest weapon. He specifically targeted models and actresses who were already famous because having them around would make him seem more legitimate. After all, why would these successful women date a nobody? They must be with him because he's a star footballer. Kaiser's knowledge of football was actually encyclopedic, despite not being able to play. He watched every match, studied every player, and could discuss tactics like a professional coach. This helped him convince people because he could talk about football for hours with genuine passion. The parties Kaiser threw were legendary. He would rent entire nightclubs, invite the whole team, and pay for everything. These parties served multiple purposes. They made him popular with teammates. They kept everyone distracted from asking questions about his playing ability. And they created so many witnesses to his generous lifestyle that nobody could believe he was a fraud. At one point, Kaiser even hired a lookalike to attend training sessions while he was supposedly getting treatment. The lookalike would wear Kaiser's training gear and stand far enough away that nobody could see his face clearly. Meanwhile, Kaiser would be at the beach with his girlfriend posting photos from the supposed medical center he was visiting. The gambling element added another layer to the deception. Kaiser would bet on matches involving his own teams, but he would bet on specific outcomes, like the number of corners or yellow cards, never on wins or losses, because he said he didn't want to jinx his team. This made him seem like a superstitious but loyal player, when really, he just had no idea how good his team actually was. Kaiser's retirement from football was as theatrical as his career. He announced he was leaving the game due to chronic injuries that would never fully heal, and several clubs actually offered him coaching positions or ambassador roles because they still believed in his football knowledge and charisma. He declined them all, saying he needed to step away from football completely to heal emotionally. The academic interest in Kaiser's story is remarkable. Several universities have produced thesis papers about him, examining him through the lens of sociology, psychology, and even performance art. One professor at the University of São Paulo called Kaiser the greatest method actor who ever lived, saying his commitment to his role surpassed any Hollywood actor's preparation. When Kaiser's story went public, many expected lawsuits from the clubs he had fooled, but surprisingly almost none came forward to pursue legal action. Lawyers say this was because technically Kaiser had always been injured when he didn't play, and proving he faked injuries from 20 years ago would be nearly impossible. Plus, the clubs didn't want the embarrassment of admitting they'd been fooled. The strangest twist came when several clubs actually thanked Kaiser. Years later, they said his presence had boosted team morale, attracted sponsors, and brought media attention that benefited the club even without him playing. Flamengo's former president even said Kaiser was worth every penny because the publicity he generated was priceless, whether he played or not. Kaiser now says his biggest regret isn't the deception, but that he never tried to actually learn football. He wonders sometimes if he had put the same energy into training that he put into faking injuries, could he have become a real player? But then he laughs and says probably not, because running was never his style. The documentary filmmaker who told Kaiser's story said the hardest part was getting people to believe it was true, even with video evidence and witness testimonies. Many viewers thought it was a mockumentary because the story seemed too outrageous to be real, which Kaiser takes as the ultimate compliment to his acting abilities. Today, Kaiser gives talks at business schools teaching negotiation and personal branding. He tells students that his football career was essentially a 20-year marketing campaign, where he was both the product and the salesman, and his success proves that sometimes perception truly is more powerful than reality. But the craziest revelation came just last year, when Kaiser admitted there was one time he almost became a real player. A coach at Bangui actually taught him basic skills, and for 2 weeks Kaiser trained seriously and started to improve. But then he realized something terrifying: if he actually became a mediocre player, he would lose his mystique, so he immediately faked another injury and never tried again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because in the next video, I'll tell you about another incredible football fraud story. When you hear about Ali Dia's Southampton adventure, your jaw will drop. This guy played in the Premier League by claiming he was George Weah's cousin, and actually got on the pitch.